Good morning, and it is absolutely a lovely morning today. It is May 17th, and we're at the height of blackfly season. For those of you who do not live in a northern climate here in North America, we have what is called black flies, and they are absolutely awful. Fortunately, the season is relatively short here. We'll have some dragonflies pretty soon here from our 1 acre pond who will eat most of the black flies. But if you're wondering why I am dressed so strangely today, it is because of the black flies. So I have my hat on, and this is a lifesaver. And I also have these long sleeves. So this is actually something I ordered for skin protection. They are, I believe, up to UPF 50 protection from the sun. And I do wear these during the hottest, sunniest parts of the year, especially if I'm outside for a long time, because I do have an autoimmune condition where if I'm out in the sun for extended periods of time and I'm exposed to it, I can have an immune system flare up. But I also found that this works really well for keeping black flies from biting my arms. So I will be wearing these for probably the next few weeks. But yeah, I just wanted to share some of the things we're doing on our homestead this year, because for the last few years, we've done some really amazing projects, really expensive projects. And this is kind of the first year in the last 5 years that we've been homesteading where we are sort of tucking it in and slowing down a little bit. One, because if you're in America right now, and I imagine this is true for a lot of places, money is tight. The cost of gas and everything that's transported with gas is going up. Materials cost more. I mean, basically everything that's transported with gas or diesel costs more right now. And that includes fertilizer and gardening supplies. So we are fortunately in a good position this year to start using some of our own resources to kind of mitigate the cost. So this year we won't be purchasing any fertilizer. And this is something we've been building up to for many years by creating our stinging nettle beds. And nettle is high in nitrogen and works really well as a liquid fertilizer. Sorry, these black flies are just terrible this morning. And of course, also getting the chickens. The chickens are also another great source of nitrogen and phosphorus and just different minerals that you get from their poop. So I have started my own fertilizing system that we will be using for our heavy feeders like the Three Sisters bed, our onions and our shallots and anything else that seems to need a little bit of a boost this year. But I figured I would just take you on a little tour of what we're doing, the different ways we're using the materials we already have to try to avoid having to buy more things. So this is kind of just another Homestead Happenings video, but maybe you'll find some of what we're doing helpful, something you haven't thought of on your own. So it's great to have you this morning.
Also check out the timestamps below if there is a specific topic that you're interested in. So this is my first full year with chickens, and gosh do I love my chickens, but boy do they eat a lot of food and boy are they expensive. But we do love our organic eggs, and I love the fact that our birds have a good life and are ethically treated. So the trade-off to me is worth it, but we have been monitoring some inevitabilities. The ongoing drought in the US and the rising cost of fertilizers and fuel because of the war in Ukraine and because of the closing of the Strait of Hormuz. The reality is chicken feed is going to get more expensive, so we are always exploring different ways to reduce our reliance on store-bought feed. As I mentioned in a previous Homestead Happenings video, we ferment our chicken feeds during the warmer months. This is a great way to improve the digestibility of the feed for your chickens and even reduce their water intake. During the winter, when my chickens are eating pelletized foods, they guzzle down so much water, whereas in the summer they're getting most of their water from their feed and only require supplemental water from their traditional water. We're also looking to reduce the size of our flock. We do not sell eggs, we just give them away, and seeing as we're averaging about 9 to 12 eggs a day, we have far too many eggs for just 2 people, and so we've reached out to our community in search of folks who want young egg-laying hens, but maybe don't want the hassle of raising chicks. If all else fails, yes, we will cull and eat our birds. but I would much prefer to just give some good egg-laying hens away. But we are aiming for a maximum flock size of about 9 hens and 1 rooster for 10 birds total, and as the baby chicks are born, we'll give away or process our oldest hens. But honestly, the easiest way to save on feed costs is to simply have less birds. It's been a few days since I've had time to turn the chicken pit, so I'm certain there's lots of good worms in there. These are a great protein supplement for chickens, and while the worm concentration has died down since early spring, we were able to reduce our chicken feed costs in April by 20% by turning daily and exposing the worms from last season. I gotta say, I love my broad fork. It's probably the most used garden tool, right up there with my wheelbarrow and just 5-gallon buckets. It just has so many uses for harvesting root vegetables and herbs, weeding, turning compost piles, and even for making fertilizer. I remember when I first started homesteading, I felt like I had all the time in the world. My gardens were small, I had no chickens, and I definitely didn't have a puppy. And I'd get all cute and done up for my garden chores and for these videos. Maybe one day I'll tell you the story about how I almost fell face first into the quote-unquote trad wife world before I came back to reality. If you're interested in hearing that story, let me know. But yep, we're rocking socks and slides and pants under dresses because I ain't messing around with those darn black flies, and it's too hot for rubber boots, y'all. Anyway, so fertilizing. There are so many ways to fertilize your garden, and I've tried most of them, or at least most of the organic methods. And I found a system that works best for me right now. It's not as fancy as some of my old setups with the bubbler, but it is more convenient and it gives me greater production, so the trade-off is worth the smell. So the system is simple. It's just 5-gallon buckets that are filled with weeds from the garden, as well as some intentional additions like nitrogen-rich nettle that I grow in rings. I eat, tincture, and dehydrate early spring nettle, but once the nettle starts to mature and put off seeds, I start cutting it back and using it to make fertilizer tea. So I've been scraping the poop shelf in the chicken coop, and I add the chicken manure to each bucket. I add some water. You can even add your own urine for an added boost of urea, which is high in nitrogen. So the largest exports of urea are Russia, China, and Middle Eastern countries. And this is part of what is used to make a high nitrogen fertilizer that's needed for large-scale agriculture around the world. So why not take advantage of the urea from your own urine? By allowing this mixture to essentially ferment for 2 weeks, and by stirring daily to introduce oxygen needed to digest some of the harmful bacteria, and finally by diluting to 1 parts fertilizer to 10 parts water, you can make your own nitrogen-rich fertilizer at home. I've done this for years with great success, so I'm hoping that the added chicken manure will really give us an amazing harvest this year. Okay, so back to the coop. I wanted to share some of the ways we are repurposing materials that we've held on to for many years. And one is, strangely enough, 2 long swatches of camo netting that I think would traditionally be used as like a hunting blind.
So years ago, before my husband and I turned this property into a homestead, we loved to hang out in the woods. It was kind of just a cheap, easy way to enjoy ourselves outside. But we do live right next to a fairly busy road, so during the winter when all of the leaves had fallen off of the trees, we just felt like there wasn't much privacy, so we bought this camo netting that you see here, and we actually never ended up putting it up. So I've held on to it for years, and I finally found another use for it. So as you can see here in our chicken run, we have attached the netting to the roof line here, and it's basically acting as bird netting. So we did bird netting last year, and it worked really well. And the reason for it, we weren't super worried about hawks. What I had, and I wonder if she's around here. Yeah, she's right over here next to Kevin. So our biggest hen, her name is Lady, and she is the lighter orangish red one right here. She was our biggest hen, and she has a powerful set of legs. And even though we have fairly tall fencing here, In most areas, it's about 6 feet tall. Last year, we just did typical bird netting that you would use on fruit trees. And that did a really good job at keeping Lady from jumping out. But unfortunately, because of this roof line, all of the snow ran off onto where the bird netting used to be, and it just tore it up. So we were going to buy more bird netting this year, but it's just another cost. So I figured, let's see what we already have and see what we can use. And this is what we came up with. And what I really like about this is a couple of things. One, this is very sturdy material, so it's a mixture of plastic. You can also see there's the actual line underneath it. I think maybe it's probably made of nylon, but it's very strong. So I am not as worried about snow running off on this and breaking it. And as you can see, we've just secured it with strips of wood here. But very strong. And the other thing I really like about it is that it creates this kind of dappled shade here, which the bird netting didn't. So with the shade that we have here, it is so much cooler for the chickens. They're able to be out on those hotter days instead of just being crowded under the roof line here. And I think it provides them a sense of security too, because it mimics what would be a chicken's natural environment, which would be in the forest under a canopy. And I think this does just a really great job at mimicking a canopy. As you can see, it's not too dark. We do have a little tree under here that's growing just fine despite the shade, and another working on a plum tree over here. But yeah, I just thought that was a great use for this material.
As we're cutting back on our outside inputs this year because of our tighter budget, I have slowed down on my straw orders. We do have some Ruth Stout on the property, which is basically a method of gardening using heavy grass, hay, or straw mulch as your growing area. And I also use the straw to keep the chicken run from getting muddy. And so we're still buying for the chickens, but I am stretched a little thin for mulches. So I literally just threw this netting over my unplanted Three Sisters bed. It's not a perfect seal like a black tarp might be, and I really don't love working with plastics, but there are some practical uses. In a pinch, I think this works great as a temporary mulch to provide your soil before planting. It just keeps everything in place and keeps it from blowing away and adds a little bit of shade. And I'm hoping since it's made for outdoor use, it won't degrade too quickly in the bright light and heat. Honestly, why does chicken feed have to cost so much? So one of my husband's friends loaned him a book that belonged to his grandfather from when he'd gone to college to study agriculture in Long Island, New York. It's this wonderful little piece of history from the early 1900s, literally 100 years ago at this point. And it's a journal all about raising poultry. And in it, I found a do-it-yourself recipe for making a balanced chicken feed. I can do a video specifically on this recipe if you're interested, so please let me know in the comments if you are. It's a wonderful little book, and before I returned it, I did take screenshots of every single page so that I could have it for many years to come. So we're planting our tilled space with chicken feed, and we're using a mix of buckwheat, sunflowers, oats, and amaranth. I am also growing some peas and corn in separate areas and testing some mixed seed swatches to see how they grow. This is my first time growing amaranth, so I did plant it in a separate area because I want to spend some time with it to see how it grows rather than broadcasting it in our field and just hoping for the best. I think this will look really nice along this fence. And amaranth is what I hope will become the high protein grain in our chickens' homegrown feed. And for our sunflowers, we are trying a little experiment with birdseed. So many bird seeds are about 90% black oil sunflower seeds, which are high in protein and beneficial fatty acids. They're great for wild birds, and they're also great for chickens. And it is way cheaper to buy a big bag of birdseed than to get individual packets of sunflowers. So we're going to see how well this goes. I don't know how successful the germination rate will be with these because I don't know how long the sunflowers have been sitting on the shelf in the bags or how they were processed, if they were over dehydrated, but I will let you know how this little experiment goes.
A little update on the black oil sunflower birdseed mix. It did end up working really well. And so this is a mix of the buckwheat and the sunflowers, and I'll see if I can find, actually, yeah, right here. So this is all those sunflower seeds from that. I bought it at Walmart. It was just a bag of birdseed, and right next to it in areas we also have a mixture of buckwheat. It did take a little bit of damage. We had this extremely late frost just a couple of days ago, late May frost, but for the most part everything held up fairly well.
So a little trick for sowing large fields by hand. In our fields, the soil dries out really quickly and tilling does not help this. Our experimental fields are the only places we till at this point, and it's less because of a preference and more because we need that force multiplier the tractor gives us to successfully plant large areas without just extra labor. I like to disperse the seeds and simply walk on them, creating an imprint of about an inch or so into the soil. And if you did this right before a heavy rain, you don't even need to rake it in. The water will run and pool into the imprint, helping the seed to swell but also covering it in the runoff soil. In this case, I did end up breaking it in because we do have lots of crows and wild turkeys and just birds that will eat the seeds if they see them sitting out on the soil. But I found that this helps us with more successful germination in dry and windy weather, and it's also a little fun to step around in the dirt in your bare feet. So that's what we've been up to on the homestead. I'm sorry it took me so long to get this video out. We've been super busy with the puppy. My gosh, puppies are a handful. But we're finally getting into a routine with Mugs, and I'm able to take him out into the garden with me without it being too much of a problem. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to support this channel, and I will see you very soon. Bye.